Well done, OnePlus. You have succeeded at doing something that Samsung hasn't even been able to do yet. This is incredible, but it's not all sunshines and daisies, at least for you. Let's talk about that and some Galaxy Fold stuff, because this is Tech Today. Hey friends, this is Brandon from This Is Tech Today, your source for honest tech reviews, the news, and my views, and you're watching This Is Tech This Week, a weekly show in addition to my other content where I talk about tech news from this past week that personally interests me. If that's something you're interested in, make sure to share, subscribe, hit that bell icon to be notified of when I post a new video, or Tim Cook will put rocks underneath all your displays, unless you buy an iPhone. You're so petty, Timmy. So OnePlus's launch of the OnePlus 7 Pro is coming on May 14th, and much of it has already leaked, specifically by the young and reliable leaker Aishan Agrawal. Hey friend. So some of the prices in euros have come out, and keep in mind you should not convert it to other currencies because it can be completely different. But here's the breakdown. For the 8GB 256GB storage option, it's 749 euros. For 12GB of memory with 256GB of storage, it's 819 euros. And the price for the base model, the 6GB with 128GB of storage version, is unclear, but there are some estimates that it'll be around 699 euros. And honestly, this is where things aren't so great for us as a consumer anymore. The prices for OnePlus devices are continually moving higher and higher, and we still don't have wireless charging. For a phone that used to be the budget option with great specs and features, the prices have reached the normal flagship prices, and that's not to be confused with what I like to call ultra flagship. Those are like the models like the Galaxy Note, the iPhone XS Max, things like that. So essentially, you can get a Galaxy S10 for almost the same price as what the rumored price is for the OnePlus 7 Pro. So you have to determine which offering is best for your dollar and preference, and that's a key part of it, preference. And some of you really value specs, and they actually look pretty good. So for the specs, I'll just share some interesting points that stand out to me that is different from the typical thing that they usually do, and I'll share some of my thoughts, and then the most interesting part about the whole phone. So first, it'll have dual speakers, which means it's likely to have stereo speakers. This is great because I often cover up the bottom firing speaker on the OnePlus 6T when I hold it in landscape mode. So having another speaker can hopefully make it so I can still hear whatever's coming out of the phone, even if I accidentally cover up the bottom. It also hopefully indicates that OnePlus is focusing more on quality sound. Now, rumors also suggest that it'll work on more carriers as well, which is a huge limiting factor for many people being able to get it, especially those on Verizon or Sprint because they use CDMA technology for their network. This expansion will surely help them grow their market share and remove a barrier from me being able to personally suggest the phone to others. That is, unless they're on like T-Mobile or AT&T. Along with that, there may be a 5G variant, but I don't think anyone should buy it, at least not yet, because 5G is not widespread enough until, well, maybe 2020. So save your money. Any options that come out when it is more readily available will surely be more affordable than whatever we get right now. It'll also have a triple camera setup, kind of like the Galaxy S10 and 10 Plus, where there's a normal lens, a wide angle lens, and a telephoto lens. And this wide angle trend needs to keep going. I love it. It may also have a pop-up camera to avoid any notch, and I'm both intrigued by it and worried about it. I'll probably giggle when I see it pop up because stuff like that is like really fun, but durability is obviously a concern. We'll have to see how well it works once it comes out. There's also a 4,000 milliamp battery, which I feel should be a minimum nowadays, and they'll have their super fast warp charge. They changed the branding on that. This increase in size is probably necessary since they're increasing the resolution of their screen to a Quad HD Plus panel, and that will for sure draw more power. Now, speaking of that display, the thing that is most particularly interesting about the OnePlus 7 Pro is that screen. Standard screens have been 60 Hz, but high refresh screens have reached as high as 120 Hz like the iPad Pro or the Razer Phone 2. Now, if you've used an iPad Pro or Razer Phone 2, you know that 120 Hz refresh screen is nice. It's super smooth. It's amazing. So going back to like a 60 Hz screen is kind of a bummer. What I'm most shocked about is that we haven't seen more and more of these types of screens in 2019. I personally think it's more beneficial and nice to have instead of an in-display fingerprint scanner, but that's just my opinion. What do you think? Well, with OnePlus, you'll get both the in-display fingerprint reader and a nice screen. They're managing to do something that even Samsung hasn't been able to do. Release a phone with a high refresh rate AMOLED screen. Now, Pete Lau, who is the CEO of OnePlus, has been hinting at this breakthrough screen, and Aishan has been able to leak out some specs about a 90 Hz AMOLED screen. Now, AMOLED screens are ironically made by Samsung, and they likely are better in terms of contrast and quality over LCD type screens like we've seen seen on the Razer phone. Now, keep in mind that this isn't the first AMOLED screen with a 90Hz refresh rate. That was found in the Asus ROG, or Republic of Gamers phone, that was targeted towards gamers and had a price point of about $900. Now, the question is, why didn't Samsung include this in the Galaxy S10 or 10 Plus? Does the hole punch create issues with that? Do you think we'll see something like that in the Note 10? It's just really odd that Samsung, the company that makes the display tech, didn't put it in their own devices first, but sold it to other companies like OnePlus. After all, they have reserved the hole punch displays for themselves for a period, and we may see that with the Pixel 4, we'll find out. Let me know what your thoughts and theories and ideas are in the comments. One thing is for sure though, this is something that you may end up seeing in a Samsung phone like the Note 10, but it'll probably cost a bit more than a OnePlus 7 Pro. So kind of an interesting offering. Now, speaking of Samsung, they made a big oopsie. As many of you probably know, there's been a lot of problems with the launch of the Galaxy Fold. I'm not gonna go over all of that. It's been talked about many times before, but if you want to catch up on that, maybe you actually don't know about that, I made a video on that, which you can check out up here. Now, what is particularly interesting is the information that has recently come out that reveals the problems with the Galaxy Fold, and it also reveals a little bit of what needs to be fixed. Famous right to repair website iFixit managed to get their hands on a Galaxy Fold unofficially from a supplier, and they tore it down. Within their teardown, they found that this phone for sure has a 0 IP rating, which means it won't do too well with water and sweat, and that means it won't do too well with dust and debris. Even the highly respected Michael Fisher, the Mr. Mobile himself, had something show up under his screen just by using it normally. In fact, it was also in the case that was provided in the box by Samsung. Now, iFixit saw that there is a 7mm gap by the hinges that pops up, especially when you fold it. It actually is just wide open when folded up, which makes it super easy for something in your pocket to just find its way in there, like lint. On top of that, when it is closed, the gaps around the hinges itself also allow for debris to get in. While many have said that this is a great phone for reading books on, like a Kindle, you probably don't want to take this to the beach. Now, Samsung wasn't too thrilled about this, and they pressured the supplier, and in turn iFixit, to have that teardown taken down. And iFixit complied. And this is where Samsung messed up. By pressuring the removal of this teardown, all the media reported on it, and of course, more and more people looked at it then. And you can also check it out on Wayback Machine. There's a link down below in the description if you want to look at that post. Samsung really screwed up. Sometimes the best thing to do is just leave things alone and not draw any attention to it. And I know saying that Samsung screwed up will upset some of you, but I have to keep it honest and say it how it is, no matter what company or brand it is. At the end of the day, they blew it with the Galaxy Fold and with iFixit. And I want to address that in the discussion around the Galaxy Fold a little bit, because there's a problem with how we're talking about the Galaxy Fold. There's been a lot of you defending the Galaxy Fold, and it's a bit of a nuanced conversation. If you are defending the device itself, you need to stop. This is unacceptable. They were mere days away from shipping units to customers, and what was sent to reviewers were essentially retail ready, and those who spent money on it were going to receive a product that was bound to fail within a month. A multi-billion-dollar company was about to ship a device that had a massive flaw in it. Are you really okay with that? Defending Samsung on a micro scale at the specific product scale is ridiculous. Stop it. This wouldn't fly if it was the Galaxy S10 Plus failing within a month. Now, in contrast to that, there are people out there that defend Samsung on the macro scale, and they're often ignored or put into the same group as the micro scale defenders. Those defending Samsung on the macro scale defend Samsung for the technology, the risk, the trajectory that they're setting us on. They've developed a foldable technology, which supposedly Huawei stole, and that's kind of an exciting story, but they developed a foldable technology that will bring new life to an industry that has been largely stagnant, and hopefully that'll bring a new era of innovation and risk. It might work, it might not, but only time will tell. But we have to give Samsung some credit for taking the risk and trying to do something new. However, that does not excuse how poorly executed the Galaxy Fold was. Now, this macro scale is the camp that I personally fall into. Do you see the nuance? Give credit to Samsung for what they're trying to do in the industry on the macro level, while not letting them get away for a product that was poorly executed on the individual product scale, the micro level. Macro, micro. So what camp do you fall into? What are your thoughts on foldable technology and Samsung's role in it? Honestly, I'm really bummed out that it didn't work out, and I hope they can make a substantial improvement to it before they ship it out again, assuming that it does ship out again. Of course, leave a comment below and join the This Is Tech Today community Discord chat to meet some really amazing and kind people. It's one of the best communities I can find in tech. Like, seriously, join it. There's a link down below in the description. Oh, who's calling me? Oh, wow, it's this video's sponsor, bookmark.com. Bookmark.com allows you to easily make your own website for your business, personal projects, resume, YouTube channel, and more in just as little as 2 minutes with Ada. Ada is an artificial intelligence design assistant that allows you to simply answer a few questions and she'll construct your website for you, and it'll have a beautiful modern design. And yes, it'll look amazing on mobile devices. So there's no need for endless hours of trying to figure out how to make a website. Bookmark.com even has a ton of resources for entrepreneurs to help you grow your own business or grow that side hustle. Get your website started now on Bookmark.com by signing up with the link below in the description and get 15% off the premium tiers if you sign up through it. That's it. Make sure to check out my last video where I talk about the fatal flaw of the foldable phone and why there's no S Pen. I brought on Max Weinbeck from XDA Developers to talk about why that applies not only to the Galaxy Fold, but also to the Mate X. Make sure you share, subscribe, hit that bell icon if you haven't already. Thank you for watching This Is Tech Today. You just watched This Is Tech This Week. Until next time. Oh, and hey, have a great day.